Guys, welcome into my weekly college football bowl predictions update video where we look at the most recent predictions on the upcoming bowl season, and we've got just one more week left. Let's take a look at how everything is looking in terms of the playoffs. And guys, this is the official prediction here by CBS. If USC and TCU both win, these are the matchups guaranteed. Also, Georgia and Michigan, obviously, we expect both of them as 17-point favorites to win. It is Georgia and USC in the Peach Bowl. Georgia obviously is going to take the Atlanta location there to face USC. They will have a huge crowd advantage. And then Michigan will enjoy a little crowd advantage against TCU. That game in Arizona, so it'll be easy for TCU to travel. But Michigan does have the much bigger fan base. And then you do have number 5 Ohio State and number 6 Alabama, two heavy hitters on the outside looking in. Ohio State with 1 loss, Alabama with 2 losses. This is the full prediction right here. If USC and TCU win, it's very easy. Those are your teams. If USC loses, Ohio State goes to the 4 seed. They face Georgia. TCU would still face Michigan. If TCU loses and USC wins, USC goes to the 3 seed. They face Michigan. And then you would have a debate between a 1-loss TCU and a 1-loss Ohio State. And I think that's when the whole context of TCU's potential loss to Kansas State comes into play. Was it a blowout? Were they losing the entire game? Was it a bad call? Was it a walk-off field goal? Stuff like that. So that is my opinion. The only way Alabama can get in, at least the way I see it, you would need TCU to get blown out by Kansas State, and you would need USC to lose. Then you possibly put Ohio State to the 3, Alabama to the 4, but then that would set up like a Georgia-Alabama all-SEC match and then Ohio State-Michigan rematch. Would they really do that? I don't know. We're still not 1,000% confirmed. Well, actually, you know what? I would be very shocked if Georgia wasn't number 1. Although there are people that are saying Michigan has better wins than Georgia. Georgia's metrics are better than Michigan, and Michigan's bad non-conference schedule will probably keep Georgia as the number 1 overall seed and Michigan at number 2. But that is just the overall playoff look. Taking a look at the other New Year's Six bowls, you've got the Rose Bowl, which would be Ohio State and Washington. Certainly, a disaster for Ohio State, but that's just, listen, that's what it is. When you lose to your rival and you get embarrassed, this is what happens. You're going to have to suck it up and Ohio State, I think, might just decline the invitation with the Rose Bowl or the Consolation Bowl, whatever it is. Washington, great season. Ohio State faced Washington like 3 years ago in this, and it was like, I don't know. Cotton Bowl, Penn State versus Tulane. Certainly really good for Penn State there. I would be very happy to see Tulane in it as well. This is definitely a better way to do the predictions, guys, because you can see the logos and stuff. So Penn State, Tulane, that's a unique battle. I would take Penn State, but I'd be very happy to see Tulane there. Alabama versus Kansas State. I like that matchup. I really do. Of course, you have to remember, Alabama probably not, Bryce Young opting out, Will Anderson probably opting out. I don't know 100%, but you would think that's why we need the expanded playoffs, so these games become meaningful. And then how about this? The Orange Bowl is fully orange. Clemson versus Tennessee. Tennessee starting Joe Milton, but he looked good against Vanderbilt. Be a fun little matchup there. That would be Clemson beating North Carolina in the ACC Championship. Looking at the other best bowls, the Citrus would be Purdue versus LSU. Purdue always seems to play well against SEC teams, guys. They really do. The relinquished, it would be Illinois versus South Carolina. Guys, I really like Illinois. Illinois is a Chase Brown. Chase Brown is so good. But South Carolina, how about South Carolina? They're probably going to be a top 20 team. They've come on. Iowa versus Ole Miss in the Music City Bowl. It's tough, man, for Iowa. They gotta do something on offense, certainly, if they want to win that game. That I would favor Ole Miss. because Iowa has such a bad offense. And I mean, Iowa lost to Nebraska. Here's a funny story. I was talking over this last week, over the last holiday week, to my Iowa friend, and we were previewing the Ohio State-Iowa Big Ten championship game. It's arrogance, guys. It is arrogance. Next, we have San Jose State versus Ohio. What is this bowl? The Arizona Bowl? Dude, that's a great matchup. I like Ohio to win that game. Ohio is good. Notre Dame versus Mississippi State. That is the Gator Bowl. I love Notre Dame. Love Notre Dame in that matchup. I think Mississippi State is a little bit fraudulent. I don't know why they were ranked in the AP poll, but they were just number 25, but still, I really hope the committee does not rank them. Louisville versus Oregon State in the Sun Bowl. I love Oregon State. How about Oregon State beating Oregon? We've got Florida State versus Minnesota. Wow. You've got to like Florida State, but I also like Minnesota. Guys, Minnesota, Illinois, these Big Ten teams are really playing better, but Minnesota can't pass the ball. And Florida State has a human glitch, Jordan Travis. They're so good. They're a top 15 team in college football. The Alamo Bowl, yes, it's going to be Texas versus Utah in an amazing matchup. Both of these teams, oh my goodness, underrated. I love Utah. I think Utah is beating USC this week, but if they lose, that is a great matchup. Quinn Ewers versus that Utah defense. The Cheez-It Bowl, you've got North Carolina versus, although Bijan Robinson will probably sit out. It's just so annoying. North Carolina versus Texas Tech, high scoring. I hope they do this. I would take North Carolina, but really high scoring. The over-under would be 80. Pittsburgh versus Wisconsin in the Pinstripe Bowl. You know, Wisconsin, they just hired Luke Fickell. They've got so much momentum. I'd have to take them to win that game. Oklahoma State versus Kentucky in the Texas Bowl. Kentucky had a nice win against Louisville. Oklahoma State kind of struggling a little bit. I would take Kentucky. Duke versus Oregon in the Holiday Bowl. My goodness, guys, Oregon would throttle Duke as long as Bo Nix plays. Yeah. And guys, that's the whole thing with the Pac-12 being really deep. Could you imagine how the Pac-12, if USC loses and they get knocked down a bowl spot, the Pac-12 without a team in the playoffs is going to throttle everyone. Like, look at this matchup. Look at the mismatch. Oregon versus Duke. Imagine Oregon getting bumped down another bowl spot because USC loses and they get no teams in the playoffs. Oh my God! Could you? That would be they would go 7-0. Baylor versus Arkansas. That's the Liberty Bowl. And I like Baylor a lot, guys. Arkansas losing to Missouri. I'm down on them. NC State versus Cincinnati. Cincinnati losing Luke Fickell. NC State, kind of a defensive team. That'd be a good game. I like that game, but I'd have to take NC State with the Cincinnati coaching situation. The Guaranteed Rate Bowl, Oklahoma versus Maryland. There's a high-scoring game. That'd be really fun. I would take Oklahoma. Well, I like Maryland. I do like Maryland. They finished the season really good, almost beat Ohio State, and then crushed Rutgers. Memphis versus Missouri. That bowl location apparently in Alabama, so that's a rough one. I would probably take, dude, Memphis is flip a coin with those two teams. My goodness. Kansas versus BYU. I would probably take BYU. Both bad defenses. You want to talk about an over-under in the high 70s? Yeah, that would be a very high over-under. Liberty, Georgia Southern. Liberty got destroyed by New Mexico State. Georgia Southern really good on offense, not great on defense. Another higher scoring game. That's two out of these last three are going to be really higher scoring games if that happens. UConn versus Eastern Michigan. So what happens here with this Quick Lane Bowl? Because normally it is Big Ten versus MAC. I guess if there isn't a Big Ten team that has 6 I don't know what that is, but it should be a Big Ten versus a MAC. Something happened there. You can see the little plus, but maybe they think UConn is a Big Ten team. I don't know. UConn versus Eastern Michigan. I mean, listen, you would have to take UConn just for fun. The Hawaii Bowl. San Diego State versus Middle Tennessee. I would take San Diego State. They're just less, they're more consistent. Wake Forest versus Buffalo. Take Wake Forest, even though Buffalo's not bad. UCF versus Coastal Carolina. That would be UCF by a mile. Coastal Carolina has the Grayson McCall injury. SMU versus Rice. I would take SMU. Rice is not good. Western Kentucky versus Louisiana. Give me Western Kentucky. They always score a lot in bowl season. Houston versus Wyoming. What a great matchup that would be. Two different styles. You get very rare matchup. Guys, you want to know what I want to see? I'd like to see Ohio State versus Wyoming in the Pinstripe Bowl or something. That would be, could you imagine that? When's the last time Ohio State's faced Wyoming? But Houston versus Wyoming, you have to give the edge to Houston. They've got a good offense. Bowling Green versus Utah State. I'll take Bowling Green, even though they have no business winning that game. South Alabama, UTSA, you've got to go UTSA the way they've been playing. Fresno State, Troy, that's a great matchup. Oh my goodness. That could be a ranked matchup, guys. I think Fresno State is a top 20 team the way they've been playing. I would take Fresno State because they've got more offense, but Troy's got a really good defense. UCLA versus Florida. That's the Vegas Bowl. You know, we got to trust Chip Kelly for sure. For sure, trust Chip Kelly. 50 burger incoming. UNLV versus Southern Miss. The Lending Tree Bowl. Southern Miss would win that game. UNLV is not good. Los Angeles Bowl. Boise State, Washington State. You got, well, wow. Wow. You know, Washington State left a bad taste in my mouth after that performance in the Apple Cup. I would take Boise State. Air Force versus North Texas. Guys, Air Force is a really good football team. I take Air Force in that game if it happens. Syracuse versus East Carolina. That is the Fenway Bowl. That game is on at 11 a.m. So that'll be funny. But I would take, in that game, you know, for as bad as Syracuse has been, I would probably take Syracuse. East Carolina's been real bad too. Toledo versus Marshall in the Cure Bowl. That game, you know, you look at that, you've got to go with Marshall. Toledo's been pretty rough recently. We'll see how Toledo does in the MAC championship though. And then the Bahamas Bowl is already set. It is UAB versus Miami of Ohio, and I think UAB is going to annihilate Miami of Ohio. Guys, there's a metric that shows you how lucky or unlucky teams are, and I think UAB is the second most unlucky team in college football. That's why they're 6-6. They're actually a lot better than that, but they've gotten really unlucky with turnover margin and stuff like that. So, yeah, UAB is going to trounce Miami of Ohio to open the bowl season. But guys, that is just the updated look. Most of these bowls are probably going to happen. These matchups possibly could happen depending on what happens with the conference championships, but there are only like 11 games left. So most of these teams have already played their last game, and they're just waiting to go to their bowl. So we'll see what happens. But either way, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.